Okay, so I've been getting some questions about human design. A friend of mine asked me, where does human design come from? So this story is either going to turn you right off or it's going to turn you on even more to human design. There was a guy, I think he was called Robert originally. I've only known him as Ra Uru because I came to him post his experience of the voice. When he was Robert, he was living in Canada and he had a family and he was married and he was in the advertising business, quite a middle class life. And one day he just walked away from all of that. He just left it. Guess it wasn't working for him. He came over to England. I believe when he got to London, he got on a bus going to Spain. And on that bus, somebody mentioned the island of Ibiza to him. So he heads on to Ibiza. He's living on Ibiza for maybe 2, 3 years, I think. He's living quite a simple life. He has a dog. And on January the 3rd, 1987, quite late in the day, he was returning home and he saw a light on in the house he was living in. And he knew he hadn't left the oil lamp on. So as soon as he arrives home, he finds that the whole house is flooded with light. The dog goes completely prone and doesn't make a move, and he spends the next 8 days and nights not sleeping, not eating, just taking notes and writing and drawing diagrams, listening to what he called ever since then the voice. 8 days and nights, the voice talked to him about the origins of the universe or the multiverse, the way things were organized, how it works, the mechanics of us in physical bodies. It mentioned neutrinos. It mentioned magnetic monopoles. I mention those because at the time, science didn't know about neutrinos as we know about them now. They're basically tiny, tiny, tiny particles, smaller than atoms, and they flow through everything. And they actually have a very tiny amount of mass. Apparently, they know that because the neutrinos move slightly slower than the speed of light, which must mean they have some mass. If they have mass, it means they can carry information. The voice talked about neutrinos, and basically neutrinos, they move through everything in the universe. So they gather information as they move through stuff. So they move through us, they move through the planets, they move through this planet, they move through the ethers, they move through cosmic outer space, and they basically inform us, and in turn, as they move through us, we inform them. So I find actually neutrinos quite a fascinating thing to meditate on, because it's part, for me, of how connected we actually all are. And how do you know the thoughts you're thinking are actually your thoughts? How do you know they belong to you? How do you know the feelings you're feeling are actually your feelings? How do you know they originate with you? Maybe they originate with somebody or something else. So apparently this voice was actually quite a frightening experience. I believe you can look for a YouTube video with Ra Uru talking about his experience of the voice and how it landed in him. But he was so taken and impressed with the information. He refused to call it channeling, by the way, that he dedicated the rest of his life from 1987 to 2011, when he died quite suddenly, to getting this information out in the world. And he referred to it as the science of differentiation. Basically meaning we're all differentiated. The way that we work or the way that we're designed is unique to each of us. And that's how we're differentiated. So for some people, they respond to life. Their correct strategy is to respond to life. Only a tiny percentage of people are actually wired to initiate. Those are the manifestors. They're much smaller proportion than we're led to think. We've all been conditioned to think that we should have a good idea and we should just get out there and do it and make it happen. It doesn't work like that for most of us. Like almost 70% of us are are generators. There's two kinds of generators. The generator's correct strategy is to respond to life, the environment, other people, events, by listening to their inner authority. Authority differs again from person to person. Some people have sacral authority. What does that mean? It means that in the moment I have a yes or a no in my body. I kind of lean into it and towards it if it's yes for me, or I lean away if it's no. Other people have emotional authority. For them, there is no truth in the moment. The wave goes up and it goes down, and they have to give themselves time to make a decision. So knowing your design is actually really helpful in terms of making decisions that are correct for you, because a lot of us, we're in our heads, we're in our minds, we let our minds make decisions, but actually our minds are not the correct decision making process for us. I know that's a bit of a shocker, isn't it? Your mind doesn't know it all. Your body actually knows more than your mind. The thing is, our minds don't like to let our bodies make decisions. The mind, the ego mind, kind of goes, well, I don't want to listen to an or an I know better. But in human design, they say that the mind is merely the passenger of the vehicle. And it's a passenger that keeps up a running commentary of everywhere you go and everything you do and everyone you speak to. And it's always going to keep up that running commentary. It's never going to stop. Can't stop it. You just got to let it do its thing. But you basically know it's the passenger. It's not the driver of the vehicle. Therefore, it doesn't decide where the vehicle goes. This vehicle is going where the driver is taking it. The driver is in the magnetic monopole, which resides somewhere in our sternum. That's another thing. Magnetic monopoles. I'm not going to get into them now, but science hadn't proved them at the time the voice was talking to Ra about this, and it has since. So I think that's enough for now, because if these videos get too long, they get hard to upload to YouTube. If you've got any more questions, put it in the box below, and I'll happily respond, or not.